So I'm Ray Nakano. I'm the I've been the tech lead for the ClimateFast webcast. And let's see, who else do we have on our team? Sharon Bider is here. I think I saw Faria someplace. And Mark. Mark is actually acting as the wrangler, what we call the wrangler, but he's basically looking after the waiting room. So if there's any last minute people that join, he'll look after that for me. And he's actually the host for the session right now, because at some point I'm actually going to come out of this session, but you'll find out about that later. So this session is being recorded, so just make you aware of that. And I'm hoping to finish my presentation portion by 7:45. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. And so I'd ask you to save your questions till the end. Hopefully you can maybe just jot them down and remember them, because I do want to respect people's time and try to finish the whole thing by 8 o'clock. This is a follow-on to the Webcast Project Management workshop I gave last week. And I think I sent that link out with the recording and the handouts for that session. And I'll be doing the same thing with this session. We're recording right now, and the handout, it'll be put up on my website. So what else do I have? Oh, so I'll be going back and forth between a lot of different screens, particularly YouTube, Zoom, and some Google Docs, Google folders. So hopefully you won't be too put off by that. We're bouncing around a lot. So now you should be able to see the YouTube screen. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So what you're doing here then to create the YouTube live stream is you're going to click on the camera icon, click on Go Live, and you would click on Manage if you weren't already in the screen. So we are in the Manage screen. And you'll see right now that the ClimateFast Webcast Tech 101 live stream is running. So it is live. The scenario that we talked about in the project management webcast is similar to what I'll be describing here. And basically, all of our speakers, presenters, panelists are in the live Zoom session. We stream that session to YouTube, and YouTube actually streams live to the whole world, to your audience. And that is what's happening right now with ClimateFast Webcast Tech 101. You can see the live symbol down here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a live stream. And I do that by clicking on Schedule Stream. And signed, and we're gonna click on Create New. And here you create your live stream. So we can say test case 2, because I actually was in here earlier doing this. Now, public and private and unlisted. So unlisted is for something where, say, we're doing a rehearsal. You could click that, that would show up. If you're doing it for your actual webcast to your audience, you would use public, okay? And that means anyone can search for it and find it, okay? For this situation, because we're just doing a workshop, I'm gonna say unlisted. You can put in a description here if you wanted to. And generally they give you a menu that you can select what type of YouTube live stream this is. And in this case, because I had, I guess, selected this category earlier, that's why it kind of came up for me. And here you would put in your date. So whatever your actual official YouTube live streaming date is. So you could select it here, you could select a time, and very straightforward. Now, here you get to specify uploading a custom thumbnail. So if you have a thumbnail already, and here I just happen to have, you could have had this in a folder, you could have displayed in Word, but I have something that's already here available, so I'm just going to select that. And I'm actually selecting from a webcast that we did a couple weeks ago called Our Common Ground, and that's what'll show up when we see the live stream. Okay. I come down to the bottom of the options list, and here you select No, it's not made for kids. And the reason for that is that if your video is made for kids, or your live stream is made for kids, there's a lot more stringent rules that you have to follow. obviously regarding content. So, but here I'm just selecting it's not made for kids. So I'm creating the stream. And now we have another test case 2, which is the one I created. Test case 1 is what I had created previously. Okay. The one thing I want to mention, and maybe I can go into the stream. Oops, sorry. Select it this way. Okay, so this is our actual Webcast Tech 101 live stream that's running right now. And as you can see, it's recording what I'm displaying. So what I wanted to point out here, stream settings. And the reason I'm doing this now, because I won't have the opportunity to show this to you later. There are 3 key elements that need to be copied over into your Zoom session. The 3 keys or 3 items are the stream key, and when you click on copy the stream key, you'll see the successfully copied to clipboard. So that stream key is now on your clipboard. That's what you're going to copy into your Zoom session. Okay. Similarly for stream URL, you click on the copy button. It copies the clipboard. You would copy that over into your Zoom session. This one is a bit more difficult. This is the 3rd item, and if I cursor over it, the arrow, you'll see that saying share. If I click on that, this is the actual YouTube live stream URL. This is what you want to pass to your audience, to your public. And the reason you set up this live stream in advance is that you can now put this in your Eventbrite registration. You can, or you could give this to whoever you want attending the event, right? I mentioned Eventbrite registration, and I think I talked about this in the project management workshop, that you don't want to give it out immediately as soon as they register in Eventbrite, because the idea is to try to collect people's email IDs so that you have a mailing list that you can use for future events. The idea of actually sending out the YouTube live stream link would come perhaps the day before the actual event, or the day of, or an hour before that event. You would send out this live stream link. So, but again, you have a copy button here. You click on that, it copies it to your clipboard, and that's what you're going to put into your Zoom session. So I'll mention this button up here. So if I were to press this end stream button right now, that would be the end of the recording, and might make a lot of people unhappy, including myself. So you want to be very careful when you're working in this area, okay? And you'll notice that the share arrow for the 3rd parameter is so close to this end stream button. Actually, if we hadn't the YouTube live stream, this would actually say go live, okay? So, and I'll warn you, the thing about going live is that you cannot reuse this live stream link once you start it. So if you accidentally start that link, okay, at whatever point in time you end it, you cannot reuse that link. It's different from the Zoom link. The Zoom link, you can start your Zoom session, stop it, and then come back to it again, restart it, not a problem, but not so with the YouTube live stream link, okay? So that kind of takes us through section A. I'm going to move into section B now. So, and I have to remember to, let's see, I have to remember to stop my share. And I'm going to come back to, let's see. Okay, so now I'm in my Zoom session. This is under my ID. Now, Mark, you still okay?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm going to set my personal Zoom settings. And the reason I do this here is that before you actually create your Zoom session, the Zoom session that's going to link to your YouTube live stream, you have to set your personal settings first, okay? And for some of these settings, unless you set it here, If you've created your Zoom session already, you're gonna miss on the settings that you should have set. Okay, so just going quickly through the meeting settings for Zoom. We always specify waiting room. It just gives you some protection. Customize waiting room. So the message that people see, and I did that for the message you saw in the waiting room for this session, you can actually change this session, change the waiting room description, waiting room message, right? And you can just put whatever you want to in here. I said here that we'll let you in shortly. Thank you for your patience. But in some situations, you might put the person looking after the waiting room, who we call the wrangler, you might put their phone number in here, so that if you're stuck in there for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and you need to get a hold of somebody, you could do that through that phone number. The thing to note is that the waiting room description has a maximum of 400 characters. But once you're satisfied with that waiting room description, just click on the check mark, close, and that is the waiting room message that people will see when they come into your session. Okay. So waiting room, embed passcode. I think I've pretty much noted all the ones that I've set. So there's not really too much to say if you just look through it. But I tried to be very specific about what options you should have turned on. I wasn't so concerned about the other ones that it can go either way. It's not really that critical, but the ones that definitely should have turned on are the ones that I've indicated in my checklist. So definitely chat. Chat's very important within your session. Private chat, auto-saving of chats, maybe not so important, but sound notification, to have that turned on for the host and co-host only. So whenever somebody joins or someone leaves, we'll hear an exit or enter chime. Okay. I wasn't so concerned about these. Co-hosting is very important. There's a story there. So in one of our webcasts, I was the host, and as a matter of practice, I always make someone else a co-host, someone else in the tech team, usually the MC will make a co-host. My laptop that was hosting the session actually went down during the event, and the event stayed up and running because I had designated somebody as a co-host. So it's very important to make sure that you always designate a co-host in case something happens to your laptop. And it could be anything, it could be a blackout or whatever that might be. So always designate a co-host, but you want to have this parameter turned on. Polling, I leave these things on anyway, just in case, but just makes it easier. Show meeting control toolbar, pretty straightforward. Screen sharing, all participants. This might be a little bit different if your audience are actually in the live Zoom session, but for a standard approach where the panelists, speakers, and presenters are within your Zoom session and your audience is outside, this is usually not a problem. So the other ones I've noted here, meeting reactions, fine. Allow removed participants to rejoin. So it's not really much of a problem. If somebody accidentally loses their session, they can come back in, but they'll come back into the waiting room. Allowing participants to rename themselves, yes. Breakout rooms, again, not really necessary, but something I just leave turned on just in case. And virtual background, yes. And I'm not scrolling too fast. The sound, stereo audio, original sound, that's fine. This one is really important. So these settings, unless you have these turned on, I can turn off like that. Okay. So I lose the capability of doing a custom live stream. I usually check off these other ones, Facebook, Workplace by Facebook, and YouTube, just in case. If something goes wrong with your custom live stream, and for whatever reason it gets messed up, you'll have at least YouTube or Facebook Live to fall back on. Now you'd have to communicate that to all of your audience, all your participants, but at least you have a backup. So I always try to make sure that those are all ticked off. And these other ones, probably neither here nor there. So those chimes you're hearing are people that are actually coming into the session late. And that's it. So those are your personal Zoom settings. You have it all in the checklist, and they're pretty much Yeah, that's a pretty long checklist, right? Okay. So once you've specified that, we're going to go actually create, right, scheduling a Zoom session. So now we're going to go and schedule a Zoom session, schedule meeting, and we can call it test case 2. Enter your meeting description. You enter your times for your meeting. Now, when I'm setting the time for a webcast, if my webcast is at, say, 8 o'clock, I will set my time for 7:30. And that's so that I have the tech team coming in at 7:30 to understand what we're doing and how we're organizing ourselves. And then I'll have the presenters, speakers, and panelists come in at 7:45. And that's again to talk to them about what's going to happen, what they need to do, if there's any questions that need to be answered, just generally making sure everything is ready to go. And then the official start time for the webcast would be 8 o'clock. So usually if it's a 7 to 8 session, I'll make it 2 hours, half an hour in front and a half an hour behind. Usually at the end of the webcast, I do what we call a debrief, where we'll have the project sponsor, the program sponsor, the MC, and the tech team get together and just talk about what worked, what didn't work during our session today, during our webcast today. And I feel that people remember better if you can talk to them about it immediately after the webcast is over. So that's what we do. And what else do we have here? Yeah, so we have a waiting room, video host off, participant host off, participant video off, audio for both, yes. Mute participants upon entry, and remember to save. So this part here, depending on what calendar, what software you use, I usually go to Google Calendar and set up, allow it. So I'm not in my normal calendar right now, but if I were, and I don't want to change it right now, but I would specify all the people that I want attending the actually the tech team and the MC and the say the panel moderator, the program sponsor. I would invite them to the meeting starting at 7:30 p.m., half an hour before the official start time, and then I would send out separate invites to the speakers, presenters, and panelists. So I would send out an email asking them to sign on at 7:45 again, right? So that we can prepare them for the actual official start at 8 o'clock. So I think that's it. So let me go back to the meeting and oops. So I've come back to the test case 2 meeting that we just created. And at the bottom, and thanks to Elena for discovering this, you'll see something called live streaming. And here is where you enter your 3 live stream parameters. Okay. So I'm not going to go back and forth from what I had showed you previously, but what I would be doing at this point is I would go into my YouTube session, and if you remember something called the streaming URL, I would copy to the clipboard from my YouTube session, paste it into streaming URL. I would then go back to my YouTube session, copy the streaming key into my clipboard, come back here to my Zoom session, copy in the streaming key. And then lastly, I would go to, remember that share icon, the arrow icon up in the upper right corner? I would, again, copy that, and here they call it the live streaming page URL, your live stream, YouTube live stream link, and I would copy that in here. Then you just do the save. Of course, it's not going to work here because I don't have any legitimate keys, but, and that's what it tells me right now if you don't do it properly. So, but that's how you actually connect your Zoom session to your YouTube live stream. And it's very important not to mix them up, right? So you don't want to be accidentally putting in your rehearsal YouTube live stream links into your actual webcast Zoom webcast. So that's your linking. And what does that bring me to? Okay, we're doing it for time. Okay, so what I'm going to show you next is say that you have, as tech lead, you've been asked to run a video or display a graphic or a PowerPoint slide. Okay. So what you would want to do, and I'm actually referring to section E points 72 through 78, because the reason I wanted to do it this way is that you don't have to be in your live Zoom session. You can actually prep all of these graphics, PowerPoint slides, your video, your audio beforehand. And I'm going to try to do that now. And I'm going to see if I can get that. Okay. Right. Okay, so it's picking it up. Good. So this is our September 22nd, our Common Ground webcast folder. And if you remember from the Webcast Project Management workshop, for every webcast, I create a folder that contains everything about that webcast. So here I have some subfolders that have graphics in it. Okay. And I'm going to actually say I've been asked to display the, I can find the right one, right here. Okay. So let's say I've been asked to display this by the organizer, by the project sponsor. So I'm going to open it up using DocHub. And I'm going to shrink it a little bit. Okay. So use existing. So that's one document that's been set up now, right? I'm going to go back to my folder, and I'm going to, I was asked to run a video. Let's have a video here. I got to stop that. And actually, I wanted to, I want to download that. So I'm going to download it. Save. Okay, so I have it, I have my video downloading right now. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to stop it right now. Okay, so now my video is set up. So now when I go into my live Zoom session, let's see where I'm in my list. So right now I have a video set up to run, and I have a graphic set up to display. So this is where okay. All right, so this is where I'm actually going to exit out of this session. So I'm going to stop my share. And I'm going to actually leave. And I'm going to be coming back in a minute. So just excuse me for a minute. We just want to take a... we are in section E. Right. Okay, so I'm going to go to my meeting that I've already set up here. And it's called Test Case 1. And I'm going to start this meeting. Video, audio. Okay. So here I am in my second video session, and things to do here. You can check your audio. You can test your speaker, your mic. You can go to the general settings. How much to comment on there? The video one I wanted to comment on though, and this is where you hide your non-video participants. So a lot of times in our webcasts, we'll have speakers, presenters, we'll have the tech team, they're actually in the live Zoom session. So if you were displaying all the participants that had their video turned off, they would show up as black squares with their name in the middle. Okay, but by clicking this button, you can hide all the non-video participants. You just click it that way, and there you go. There's also another option here, which I've made use of for this webcast, where you can display up to 49 people in one gallery view. So when you have that many people attending, that's probably the option you want to set. Audio, not much to say about there. Screen, share screen, again, not much. Chat, pretty much, I don't change much of these, the general settings that are there. So I think, yeah, that's basically what I do there. So what I wanted to show you now was the screen sharing. So I am in somewhere in section 78, I think, or I don't know, 78. So in screen share, and you remember that I set up a video and a graphic. I have to track down that. Okay, well, I'll start with the video. So what I've done here, I've selected the video that I had previously downloaded. Very important to click off on this button, Share Computer Sound. If you don't click off on that button, when you play your video, you won't hear the sound. And similarly, you can optimize the viewing by clicking on this Optimize Screen Sharing for Video Clip. So once you've done that, you then go to Advanced, and you click on Portion of Screen. And what Portion of Screen does, it gives you a yellow frame. Okay, so there's my video there. Sorry, a green frame in this case. And I can move this frame around. Oh, now it's yellow. And then it turns green. So what I'm doing is I'm actually framing what I want my audience to see. And though you can't see it as the audience, you're seeing it really as the tech lead right now. This is what the audience sees. And if you don't want them to see the buttons, you maybe just want them to see the time, you click on that.
Hi, my name is Maria, and I'm a future for all to me. With ending the increasing trend of regions becoming unlivable due to climate change and related natural disasters.
And you control it through there. So that's what would be seen by your audience until the end of the video. So that's the video. And let's see if I can find my graphic. Where's my graphic? My graphic is right here. Okay. So this is what I was mentioning about trying to make sure that the video or your graphics are kind of in the same location. And preferably you're not doing this back to back because it takes time. So what I usually try to do is I'll exit out of my screen share. We'll go back to whoever the speaker is. And that usually gives me enough time to start queuing up my next share. And I don't know why I can't just see. There it goes. Right. So again, I've framed what the graphic that I want my audience to see. And then, so I would have stopped the share, done this framing, and then come back to start my share. And then this would be ready to be seen. So, and for the our Common Ground webcast, we actually had an introductory graphic card for every single speaker. So this was a lot of work for the tech lead to do. And you need to have somebody that's supporting you and assisting you in doing that. So it's, but I think it added some sophistication to the overall webcast. So let's see, let's move back to my notes now. So I'll stop my screen share. Right. So I talk about the back and forth between graphic cards and videos and slides, so forth. So, and it really depends on the capability of your speakers and presenters. If you have somebody that's a first-time presenter, even for say a PowerPoint slides,
then you want to take that difficulty away from them and actually look after it for them, which we've done. I think we did that for the Earth Day webcast. Okay. Might apply it similarly to videos. If they're uncomfortable in running videos, they may ask you, well, can you take that on for us? So it adds to your workload as a tech lead, but overall, it's for the betterment of the webcast. So don't be afraid to take those things on. You just need to make sure that you have some support to help you. Like I have Mark helping me with the waiting room right now. So I talked about designated co-host. Second devices. So right now I've got 2 other devices that are set up. So one is my smartphone, which I'm using right now as a camera. So you can see me in this other Zoom session. I also have my tablet set up. And what you'll find when you're doing your webcast is that if you start looking up chats or start doing some work on the device that is actually hosting the session, you'll start to get blackouts. You may have seen this in some instances where you'll see portions of the screen that are blacked out and you kind of wonder, what is that? So that's your tech lead doing some things on the host device that are actually blocking out the picture to the audience. So by having a second device, and here I'm using my tablet, I use it for Zoom chatting, chatting with the speakers or with the MC or with the wrangler to converse with that person, separate from the device that's actually doing the hosting for the webcast. So that's something to think about. What else do I have here? So I noticed in the videos, I missed a couple things in the video settings, but I think you can probably understand that yourself. So actually, it was here. Sorry, it is right here. I missed going through this. So enable waiting room, it's checked off. Polls are there, chats there. Share screen, of course. Record, so I'm not recording this particular video session right now. And here, okay. So here is the live on custom live streaming service. So if I was actually making the session go live, that's the button I would click on to actually live stream from my Zoom session to YouTube. And then I showed you in the YouTube session where you have to click on the go live green button to actually make the YouTube live stream go out to your audience. So I'm up to, let's see. So this is talking about the sequence now, sorry. So 15 minutes before, you have as I mentioned earlier, your speakers, presenters, and panelists come aboard. During the actual webcast, the tech lead and wrangler actually go dark, and they actually mute themselves as well, so that there's no accidental sounds coming over the webcast. But I can remember that at some point you may have to unmute and say, turn on your audio, because it seems to happen a lot. And just before the actual official start, I have what I call a 2 minutes of absolute silence. And it actually makes it easier for the editing, which I'll show you later. But it also gives people just an opportunity to just kind of calm down, take a deep breath, relax before they actually start into the webcast itself. Right, that's during that 2 minutes. And I'm looking at item 90. Okay, so that's when I'm actually going into the YouTube session and clicking on the go live to make it go live. And right, I just talk about you should always treat your mic as a live mic. I think they call it a hot mic in the industry, but you never want to say anything that you would ever want the public to hear. Even if you think your mic is off, you should never want to say anything. So there's some dire consequences if you don't. So during the webcast, I think I've mentioned before that the tech lead is in constant communication. I mentioned the Zoom chat. The other positions other tech team positions are the YouTube chat moderator, which actually Mark's done for us quite a bit and very well, and a YouTube watcher. So the YouTube watcher actually just watches the YouTube live stream. And if there's any problems in terms of audio, video, I don't know, some annoying sounds, maybe the lighting is not very good, that person will actually text me through my smartphone. Though you can't do it in this situation because my smartphone's being used as a camera, but he would text me through my smartphone to say, hey, Ray, this is not working here, or this has gone down. That's what the YouTube watcher would do. YouTube chat moderator would keep me up to date as far as what they're doing in terms of collecting questions from the YouTube audience. And if there's too few questions, I may send a Zoom chat to the MC or the panel moderator that please ask the audience to give us more questions, right? And the other side of it is that the speakers and presenters, panelists may have given us links. So as they're talking, the YouTube chat moderator will actually pass those links to the YouTube audience at the same time. So when someone mentions, oh, on our website so-and-so, then that will be pasted into the YouTube chat for the audience to actually see visibly and copy if they wish to. What else? Oh, so think about spotlighting. So I don't have multiple people in my Zoom session right now, but spotlighting turns the video on the speaker, and it does that for all devices. So if you switch to speaker and gallery from your own personal Zoom session, that only affects your device. If you do pinning, it only affects your device. But as the tech lead, person that has hosting or co-hosting capability, spotlighting turns that person's video on for all the devices, everyone that's watching. So maybe it's not as important if you're doing your live stream through YouTube, but if, for example, you had participants within your live Zoom session, then it would be important. They would see the speaker foremost. Generally, as a practice, lately we've been actually doing just gallery view for Q&A, so that as people are being asked questions, you still see the entire gallery, and we can see other speakers, I guess, if they're putting their hand up or if they have a reaction to someone's response. So that's been our practice lately. And right at the end of the session, you would stop. You would go into your YouTube session and stop YouTube live stream, because that immediately cuts off the webcast for your YouTube audience, your streaming to the public. I would then, you can't copy the YouTube chat because there might be some valuable information in there. There may be questions that you want to pass on to your panelists. When YouTube processes the YouTube recording of your live streamed video, after that, you can go and copy the YouTube chat, and you can send it to perhaps the MC or the panel moderator or to the speakers and presenters if they wish to get a copy of that. The next thing that you do is you actually come back into your Zoom session, you shut down the Zoom session. And so here you would normally see a stop. It's stop live stream, I think. So you would click on that. But before you do that, because if you stop the Zoom live stream, you lose all the chat. So if there's some valuable chat within the Zoom session itself, there may have been some back and forth between the speakers or something that you think, oh, this is something worth capturing, then I would copy that chat, and you can do that by, well, I'm not gonna have much chat here because I'm in the session by myself, but you could copy whatever was said, copy it to a Word document and preserve it, and then give it to the MC or the panel moderator afterwards. And then you shut down your live Zoom session. Okay. So I'm gonna exit out of here now, and let's see where I am. Oh, I talked about the doing the debrief immediately after the webcast is over. Okay, so I'm going to come out of this session now, and I'm going to see if I can come back into your session.
So this is the video from the project management webcast, and you'll notice there's a audio stream down here in the video stream. Okay, you can actually increase the timeline by just expanding on it here. So if I want to do a trim, say I wasn't happy about the start of my video, click on trim. You see this double arrow? The blackened portion is what I'm trimming. Okay. You can go to the other end of the video. Move this out of the way. And double arrow, trimming. Okay. If there's a section within here, and if you see this fine line here, I can play my video. I can pause it. If I click on split, I can then move the double arrow, and that actually cuts that portion out. So if I start here, start. Oh, there's Mark. Move it a little bit. So let's just bring up to the break. Okay, so you see the skip. So right now, if I were to, and the last step you have to do is to actually preview your oops. The last thing you have to do is you have to preview your changes so that it actually knows that you've actually gone through checking out what you're trimming from the start, trimming at the end, trimming your previewing your cutout. And then once you've done that preview, it'll come up here with, do you wish to save your changes? So that's where you actually save your edited video, the trims and your cutouts. Now, I did forget to mention that before you start editing your YouTube video, if you want to copy the YouTube chat, this is the time to do it. Because once you've edited the video, you lose that YouTube chat. Okay, so just going to be really careful about that. So I'm not going to save these changes. I'm going to press clear all, otherwise I would mess up my project management video. But that's basically, yeah, that was editing YouTube video. There are a lot of YouTube videos on how to edit YouTube videos, so I'll leave you to do that. And I guess that's the end of my checklist. So it's 7:55, I'm a little bit, about 10 minutes off my target, but we do have time for questions. So
yeah, Ray. So we had a lot that came in during your presentation, so I just wrote them down. And do you mind if I go through them with you, and then we can get to others that come in at the end?
Sure.
Okay. So the first one was: are there any specific specs for the thumbnail image that you use for the image of the YouTube? Do you specify anything?
I think there is a numbered limit that it has to be a certain minimum size, but I can't remember what the numbers are. So for a thumbnail, it doesn't have to be very large, right? So I would just try using whatever graphic you have, and then if it asks you to adjust your graphic, then just do that. So
okay.
And
then
I can't be more specific.
That's okay. And then there was the question, can you copy all 3 links at once to the clipboard and then move them to Zoom and place the links where they were required? I know you went over this, and Quinn in the chat also kind of emailed that only one can be copied at a time, but I don't know if you just wanted to clarify that.
Actually, Elena and I just went through that. She sent me a list of all of the 3 parameters for about 3 different webcasts, and I just copied them directly in. But if you're using the clipboard going back and forth, it would only copy one item at a time, and you would overwrite the item on a clipboard. So yes and no. Yes to what Quinn said, how it would work. But if you want to copy it just in I think she was communicating it by just an email. I just copied it directly in. Okay.
Okay. Anne asked, what Zoom plan is this? Which Zoom plan do you have to be able to run all of these events? What price, I guess?
I have the basic paid Zoom plan. which allows you to go over the 40 minutes that the free Zoom account would give you. And it allows you up to, I think, 100 people in your Zoom session, which I think the free one does as well. But the free one has a 40-minute limit. So.
Okay. And then just based on that question, Rita has asked, what Zoom software is needed? I guess, what app? And is there a difference between using it on a Mac versus a PC? I know that you mainly use a PC, I think. So I don't know if you notice any differences or know of any differences.
I use a PC. My wife uses a Mac. I haven't seen any differences, but there's just some inherent differences between Mac and PC, right? But I'm sure Zoom is a growing tech company because of the pandemic. So I'm sure that if you need any help in addressing problems, I'm sure they're there to help you. So you see a lot of the competitors coming up, like you have Team from Microsoft. You have a lot of other services that are being offered now for online meetings. So.
Okay, and yeah, and just that first part of the question, which is the Zoom software, you just to clarify, you download the Zoom app from, for example, the Microsoft Store for free, and then log in, and then and it prompts you with updates whenever there is one.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Sharon asked, can you further explain the videos and the images? She used the word DocHub, which is maybe what you had them in, but I think maybe Google Drive, and just the purpose of downloading them and then pulling them through another app, like a video playing app, as opposed to playing them through the internet. I know there could be buffering issues, internet issues, and so if you play it through an app, you remove that issue.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you just want to mention that again or talk more about it.
I don't know if I have much more to say about it. If it works for you, then it's fine. I find that if you what you don't want to use, you don't want to use it running in YouTube or Vimeo, because at least in my case, sometimes you'll get an ad, and I didn't want that. So that's why I always suggest downloading or converting it to an MP3 or MP4 file, and using that, which is what we have sitting in our webcast folders.
Right. Okay. Can static screenshots be set up in advance so they are ready for framing right away?
Yes. Yeah, you could do
that. Okay. And then I don't know if you want to talk, I don't think you mentioned it during this one, but when you have different tech people within a Zoom session, the naming conventions, sometimes you want, say, Tech Ray or Tech Mark or Tech Sharon listed so everybody knows that they're not a panelist. Yeah,
and we've done that before. We've actually, especially if you have people that don't really know who are the tech people here. So I know we've used Tech Ray, Tech Mark, Tech Sharon before. So yeah.
And do you want to talk at all about the median conventions between communication for different roles? I know you mentioned that briefly, but whether it's Google Docs for the question and link documents, texting, Zoom chat, just specifying those communication between the different tech people?
Well, generally for the questions and for the links, the questions coming from the audience back to the people in the Zoom session, and the links coming from the panelist speakers, the program sponsor, going out to the YouTube audience. You could come up with whatever other shareable device, whether it's, I think the thing about Zoom chat is that you'd have to be, how would it work? You'd have to be in the Zoom chat as well as the YouTube chat. So I guess you could do it that way. You could be pasting your YouTube, whatever you're getting, and pasting that into your Zoom chat. But I find that Zoom chat, you want to leave it for the more immediate issues. And if you start using it for questions, it's just going to get kind of piled up, and it's hard to differentiate between one or the other. So I would prefer to keep the Zoom chat clean, and I think probably Sharon would agree with me. Keep it as clean as possible, so that you're dealing with really important, like say someone says, I've lost my microphone, I can't turn my audio on. What are you going to do? So those types of things, you don't want to get that kind of thing lost in a bunch of questions that are coming through that way. So, okay.
Yeah. For the Zoom chat, do you want to talk about, I know you mentioned that you copy it. I guess you highlighted it all, Control-C, and then Control-V it into a Word document. I think it was Sharon who usually uses this save chat function, the 3 dots next to the name, and uses the save chat.
Right.
Is there a benefit to doing one over the other?
I don't really think so. I don't know. I just basically just do a straight copy.
Okay.
I just find it easier. I guess it's whatever you're more comfortable with, right? So
Okay. Can you explain how to save the chat in YouTube?
save the chat in YouTube. Let's see, can I go there right now? Oh, oh. So I've tried, and it may have changed in YouTube. Previously, when I didn't shut down the YouTube session, I could actually copy the chat. But the last couple times I've tried to do it with our webcast, and I couldn't for some reason copy the YouTube chat. So I found that I had to wait until the webcast was over, YouTube had finished processing the YouTube video, and then I could go back, replay the YouTube video. The chat would reappear, and then I could copy the chat then. So I'm not sure whether it was something that I wasn't aware of or whether they changed something, but I found that you could only copy the YouTube chat once once YouTube had finished processing the video. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, and then there's a bunch of questions here from people who are specifically looking for clarification around the roles of chat monitor or chat moderator within YouTube, and just want to know what that role does and how it's done. I don't know if you want Feria and I to
Yeah,
talk
I
about
think
it,
you and
or
Feria could answer that question better than me. Go ahead.
sure.
Oh,
Okay.
can we maybe can we open up the just ask people to turn their videos on so I can just see
Sure.
who's left? Okay. Oh, we have great. So we didn't lose all the audience yet. That's good.
Yeah, we were up to 29 and now we're at 24. Just so
All
you
right.
know. So yeah, Feria, do you want me to take the questions and you can do the links?
Sure, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Feria.
So yeah, so to those who have been asked to be chat moderator for upcoming events in the Eco Fair, first of all, you'll want to log into the YouTube account or Google account that will be running the YouTube event. So if it's Green Neighbors Network or if it's Eco Fair, if they're all being run through Green Neighbors Network, then you want to have access to that Gmail account. So you would log in and then you would go to the link for the YouTube session so that when you post in the chat, it's coming from Green Neighbors Network and not your personal account. So you want to have some pre-written messages, and Ferry will talk about that with the links. But you basically want to follow the flow of the moderator who's speaking during the event. And so when they prompt people to ask questions, you want to write in the chat saying, this is where you can post questions. Please do them here, and they'll be asked at the end of the session. There is a 200-word limit, so you might want to make people aware of that, because some people have issues. They type a question that's too long and can't hit enter, so they want to break it up into between two questions. So then the process of gathering the questions. So prior to the event beginning, you want to set up a Google document and share it with all of the people on your tech team, and especially the question moderator and the moderator themselves. And so this can be done two different ways that we've done. So one way is the Google document is shared with everybody that needs to know. As the YouTube chat moderator, you're watching the chat as questions are coming in and as posts are coming in, and you copy and paste, just highlight, copy, and then paste it into the document, the Google document. And you want to separate it into a number of different sections. So at the top, you want general questions. So if somebody poses a question and it's not to a specific speaker, or they want every speaker to answer it, it can go in the general section. If they write it to a specific speaker, you put it beneath their name in the Google document. So you want to have all the speakers' names in the Google document before you start, and then you just paste it in underneath their name. And from the events we've hosted, it's been a lot of engagement, which is really good. So the questions come in really fast, and there's lots of them. And if you're also running the links that Ferry will talk about, it's quite a lot to do. And you might not have the opportunity at the same time to review what the questions actually are. So whether it's a good question, a relevant question, more of a comment, whether, say, a number of different questions come in that are in the similar vein, or you know, you really want to get your speakers talking about this and there's a limited time, you want to make sure that all the speakers have an opportunity to speak. You need, I do recommend having a second person who's intimate with the subject matter, who also has access to that Google document. And what they're doing is they are maybe rewording the question so it's easier to read, or copying and pasting a question that came in later in, but they put it to the top of each section so that it's asked first. Yeah, and then so then from there, the person who is actually asking the speakers verbally the question, they also have access to the Google document, and they're seeing the ones at the top of each section and kind of going down throughout the list and asking those questions, so that they can just read them out. Maybe they want to put their own spin on it, that's fine, but they read them out. And then once the question has been asked, you as the YouTube chat moderator who has copied and pasted those questions into the document, you can either highlight them red, or you can strike through them and then move them to the bottom of the list. So strike through text, or highlight them red so that you know that they have already been asked and to not be asked again. So that's the role of the YouTube. So basically there are three roles. There's the YouTube chat moderator who is looking at the questions, copying and pasting them from the chat into the Google document. And then there's a second person on your team who is just looking at the questions and looking at the content of them specifically. And then there's the third person who is verbally asking them. Yeah, so I know some questions have come in while I was speaking, but I didn't get to see them. Oh, sorry for talking fast. There are two different platforms, Zoom and YouTube. Usually the audience will be in the YouTube. Only the panelists and the tech team will be in the Zoom session themselves. So you only need to look at the YouTube chat moderation. And that's where the questions will be coming from. Yep, I can put a step-by-step.
Yeah. So Mark, we're getting a request to have you and Faria write a chat moderation guide.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll see. We'll leave that with you and Faria.
Sure.
And then, okay, I could talk about the links. So similar to how you kind of create a Google Doc with headings for the different questions, you kind of create a Google Doc before the event where you have different links you want to plug. So it can be for the organizations that are putting on the event. It can be for the speakers, and you get these, like you ask the speakers and the organizations to kind of send you this beforehand, and you can like write out a little blurb, just kind of like a little preamble for it, and then you put it in. If it's over 200 characters, like Mark said, you split it up into separate messages. And yeah, in terms of when you plug it in, you just kind of pay attention for when it makes sense. So when I do it for the like organizers or the hosts, the hosts, I just do it at the beginning, and then you could also maybe do it at the end. And then for the speakers, just when they introduce themselves, you do that. And then yeah, you just kind of pay attention to when it makes sense to plug it in, but it's not too hard. So it's a pretty straightforward task.
So any other questions, Mark? Or anyone in the audience? You can actually...
That's all I had on my list, Ray.
Okay, if anyone in the audience would like to unmute and ask your question, that's fine too.
Hi, it's Rita here. And so three of us are on this call. We only wanted to know what the heck is happening with we thought we were moderating, no, not moderating, monitoring the chat. So like even the terminology, this is all new stuff for me. All of your technical stuff, I have great admiration for, but truly like that's not my forte. That's not my gift. So I'm happy to take on monitoring the chat, or if you want to feed us the correct terminology, because I can tell you've all worked together and you know, it's like a clean machine that you've got going. But I'm going to speak on behalf of myself and the other two colleagues from Green 13 will be on the evening of the 17th. We need to know basic stuff like the terminology. You clarified for us that we're only dealing with the YouTube platform. Okay, I got that, but seriously, I'm going to ask you if you can write out the step-by-step stuff, and what kind of tools do we need to have? Who are we reporting to? How are we communicating? Like, are we just putting everything into a Google Doc that someone else is reading and determining, you know, what questions they're going to ask the panelists? I need to understand the shape of the beast here.
So I had asked Mark and Faria if they can put together a mini guide for YouTube chat moderation. So hopefully it'll look at both the questions part from speakers to the audience, and then audience to the speakers for questions, and then the links going from the speakers to the audience. So I'll ask if they can put that together for us.
Sure.
Okay, and in terms, like I caught certain bits here, you know, different whatever links and so on that you want. That is it the role of the chat monitor or whatever term you're using to insert that into the chat at some appropriate moment? Well, then who's feeding that to us in advance?
So when the person that's approaching your speakers or presenters or panelists, that person would ask for that information. Like, is there information that you, Mr. Speaker or Mrs. Speaker or Miss Speaker, would like us to pass on to the audience? They would give that to you in advance, and you would actually have that.
How far in advance? Are you talking about the half hour before we start?
No. You'd be talking like days before.
Okay, and so that means that we need to have that contact information in a timely way. Right.
Yeah. They may have websites, they may have contact email IDs that they want to pass on, but you don't want to be doing it the day of or even the day before. You want to have time to prepare all that material.
Can you please put that into your write-up, Mark and Faria as well, because this is brand new to us, and I'm not sure we're going to be doing it more than the one occasion, but you know, we want to understand what we're doing and do it.
Noted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Different roles, YouTuber watcher, and some people will copy and paste the question. When do I know what exactly I will do?
Oh, so you would have had a team meeting with your master of ceremonies, who's ever heading up your program or your organization, the people doing the tech lead for the event, the person looking after the waiting room, the person doing the YouTube chat moderation, the person doing the YouTube watching. You would have had a meeting to organize all of this. So you would know exactly who is doing what. And if you go to my project management webcast, there were some handouts there that talk about the different roles. You can find it there.
Okay, but when I will know this meeting, when will be tomorrow, last week?
Oh, are you helping out with the EcoFair?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So Elena, if she's there, she is.
Hi. Yes, Pedro, I'll be in contact with you. I'm sending out an email tonight asking everyone about the dates that they can commit to, and then once we have those, I will update with our initial team meeting before those events, and then there we will be able to assign the roles for the events that you will be supporting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Mark?
All right, I just wanted to, I was gonna type this in the chat. I totally agree that a guide will be helpful, so we can get to work on that. I just also wanted to mention that when you send a follow-up email, maybe include the project management workshop link, because Ferry and I did go over the process. I just remembered that we went over this process and we shared our screen with the question, and answer document and the YouTube link sharing document. So we did go over it in much more detail in that workshop. So I think that video would be really helpful.
Yeah, but I still think we still need a written guide too, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to figure out what minutes of that video. Yeah. Okay. But you're right. We did go over it there too. Okay. Any other questions? Did it make sense? Did people find it helpful? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I guess the other thing I'll just mention, the YouTube recording for this video, it will be processed by YouTube, and once that happens, I'll probably do some editing to it, and then we'll make it available. In fact, I'll send it out, the edited version, to all of the attendees for of this particular meeting, so that you'll have that. You already have the checklist that I produced, and maybe Mark and Ferry will have a guide done by that time too. We'll see. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, then thank you very much for attending this session. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions, oh, I guess I can key that in just in case there's somebody here that doesn't know my email ID. So I'm keying in my email ID. And earlier I gave you my my website. My website, I do daily posts from mainstream media. So Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, what else is in there? The Guardian, sometimes Bloomberg News, Associated Press. So if you want to get daily mainstream media clippings, you can go to my website for that. Plus I'll have this video on that website, as well as the handouts as well. So thanks very much for attending, and hopefully you got something out of it. And good luck with your webcast.
Thank you, Ray. On behalf of everyone, I thank you. I think it was really, really good. So thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Okay, you're welcome.